Hi everyone, I'm Tracy Croft, General Manager for SeaLink South Australia. And joining me today is Chris Briggs, General Manager of Marine for SeaLink Marine and Tourism. Thanks for joining today, Chris. How are you going?
Yeah, good, Tracy. We're in Batam, Indonesia at the shipyard PT CAS. Very tropical day as it is most days over here. We've just been through a morning inspection this morning and I've just come back up to PT CAS's boardroom.
Thanks so much for being available. I know it's a really busy time when you're there. Let's start with the sheer size and scale of the new vessels. They're so impressive, and what's really important to remember for everybody is that the two vessels are identical.
Yeah, that's right, Tracy. So we've got two 60-metre vessels under construction in one of the construction sheds here at the moment. It's not until you actually have a walk through in the shed that you understand the sheer size and scale as you describe. These vessels are slightly larger than the existing fleet, 60 metres long and 20 metres wide. But we've worked very, very hard to ensure that the emissions and the manoeuvrability of these vessels is much better than the old ones. We're using MAN Tier 3 engines, which reduces our NOx and SOx emissions. They're highly fuel efficient, and we're using VET's counter-rotating azimuth propellers or propulsion units, which are about 10% more efficient than a normal propulsion unit.
Okay, for those of us perhaps not as technical as you, NOx and SOx, do you want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, sure. So that's some of the sort of more nasty particles that come out of the diesel process. So nitrogen and sulfide. The Tier 3 engines use an injected AdBlue system, and it helps catch those NOx and SOx and reduces those very, very significantly. So the vessels will have a much lower emissions, and as well as being very, very much cutting edge in the fuel efficiency stakes, we should find these vessels' emissions are much improved.
So in terms of the hull construction, I understand that we've got a combination of steel and aluminium. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that and what that might mean for our customers travelling on the new ferries?
So the vessels are built in class. The class society is Lloyd's Register. The hull is constructed of high tensile steel, and the superstructure is aluminium to save weight. There is a bimetal strip that joins the two because those two metals don't go well together. So there's an explosion bonding process to make a bimetal strip that gets welded down to the steel hull, and then the aluminium superstructure is welded on the top. So the yard here constructed the hulls in one shed, and then they made the superstructure in modules, which they then craned across and placed on top of the hulls and basically stitched it together as they went.
It's pretty impressive. We've been looking at some of the pictures that you've sent through previously on some of your other visits. But what I'd also like to understand is what that's going to mean for some of our travellers. You know, we've got improved turnaround times. We've got probably a more reliable and efficient journey across Backstairs Passage. And I would assume some of the technology that we're using is also going to permit some faster and smoother docking in both harbours.
Yeah, Tracy, you're right. Just with the slightly longer hull length, it has a different way of cutting through the water and sitting across the wave period. So they should be more comfortable to ride on. And generally a wider beam boat is also more comfortable as well. So we should see a smoother, more comfortable crossing, but you know, Backstairs Passage at its worst is still Backstairs Passage, so it can still get very rough. It won't be a magic carpet ride, but it certainly will be a pretty special experience for our guests. The vessels will be slightly quicker, and one of the largest improvements that we have is the traffic will be roll on, roll off, so there won't be any backing of trucks and trailers and things. They'll be able to drive straight in through the bonnet at the front at Cape Jervis and straight out the back of the boat when we get to Pennyshore. So our turnaround time should decrease, which means that we should be able to improve how fast we can deliver our services.
Yeah, we're planning on delivering a much greater number of departures per day, up to 22 in peak season. So with the additional 150 metres of lane space per departure, the new ferries will provide so much extra capacity for vehicles. One of the other design features of the new ferries that we've been talking about previously, Chris, is the access to the engine and propellers from the vehicle deck. How's that different to our existing ferries?
So normally to access engines when it comes time to do major maintenance works or repairs, or if you damage a propeller, you basically need to either take the boat out of the water or cut a hole in it to access the engines. So we've set this boat up to be, or these vessels to be highly redundant in their systems. So we have soft patches in the decks, so we can basically pull out generators, engines and the azimuth pod propulsion system while still in the water. So we should be able to maintain our services. Even if we do suffer a breakdown or damage, we should be able to continue those services. One of the other things that we've done to improve how quickly we can turn around our services, we've taken some technology, or simple, it's not particularly technical, but a fairly simple system that's been used in transshipping, which is the use of a mooring hook. So when the vessel comes in alongside, the vessel will deploy a mooring hook which grabs hold of the infrastructure. And so for most of our tie-ups, as long as the weather's less than 25 knots, we shouldn't have to be using ropes, which will also help our turnaround time. The shore-based link span ramp that the cars will drive down grabs the front of the boat. The boat has basically a set of fingers out the front of the boat called beggars, which the link span ramp drops down onto at the front of the boat. Then the open bonnet opens up and the cars roll on through. So it's a pretty good system, been tried and tested in the transshipping world elsewhere. We're looking forward to that helping us out with our turnaround times.
So moving inside the vessel, what I'm really excited about is the contemporary design and the look and feel. It's really modern and spacious, and I know it's going to be a much more comfortable experience. What are your thoughts on, with your experience in the construction of vessels, what are your thoughts on how we've gone about that?
Certainly this vessel is very well appointed. It's probably the highest level of interior fit out that we've put into any of the SeaLink fleet, and will probably rival pretty much anything else in Australia. It is a very spacious layout. We've used large format windows so people can make the most of the view. It gives a very open feel to the boat. We've kept our ceiling heights at a nice high level. We've got pretty amazing lighting throughout the boat, high quality finishing. So the boat looks and presents quite spectacularly. We've used some of the best seating available on the market from Berthaud. There is, for the first time, a lift in these vessels that actually runs from the car deck all the way through to the sun deck. And we have a disability access toilet on all three of the levels, including on the lower level where we have our pet lounge. We have toilets facilities down there for our guests, and then up into the main deck, the upper cabin there. It is quite a well-appointed cabin with a cafe and a pretty special lounge, which is quite spectacular down the aft of the boat. It has panoramic windows right across the stern of the vessel. As you move through the boat and head upstairs, there is quite a lovely, relaxed lounge area. The sun deck lounge is it's a pretty spectacular, beautiful spot to sit. It looks out over the back of the vessel, and then for those days where the weather treats us nicely, we have a very large, very spacious outer sun deck, so our passengers can get out there and feel the wind in their hair and the sun on their face, and it'll be a fairly special place to be.
It's pretty important that we haven't forgotten our four-legged friends, so thank you for outlining everything about the pet lounge. It's a great addition. A big focus and a lot of the questions that we get around the vessels is, am I going to get as seasick? And I have been mentioning to people that if you're prone to be seasick, you're prone to be seasick. But I know you spoke earlier about some of the improvements that might contribute to a more comfortable ride. But what are some of the other features that might support that?
Tracy, you're 100% right. If you do suffer seasickness, you're best taking precautions. Generally, I recommend people who are prone to seasickness, they start their seasickness tablets the day before, not the morning before they depart. But once on board, because the vessel is larger, it rides smoother, the large format windows, the lengths that we've gone to put high-end air conditioning throughout the boat, they're all things that add up to a better passenger outcome for those who do get a little bit queasy on the crossing. And we will be a little bit faster, so the journey will be a little bit shorter. So whilst I can't guarantee a magic carpet ride, I can guarantee that it will be a nice passenger experience on the way to KI.
Okay, so Chris has stepped outside into the shipyard to show us a little bit more around that space. One of the things with the visuals that we've already received, Chris, and the artist's impression that has been created for us, it's really bringing the two new ferries to life. And the fact that we don't have to worry about which vessel people are travelling on in terms of freight, other types of goods, because they are identical, is going to be a huge feature. We've got both vessels in construction there now. So can you tell us a little bit about how that works?
So Tracy, the shipyard facility here is quite enormous. Shed 1 and 2 has vessels under construction. You might be able to see Shed 5 back there. It looks small at the moment, but it's about 200 metres long, and there's actually 3 vessels under construction in that shed, 2 of which are ours, and they're parked end to end, one behind the other. So the scale of this shipyard is quite amazing. And yes, the boats will be identical, which will the outcome for that is it's a passenger experience that can be repeated without any change as you jump from vessel to vessel.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thanks again, Chris. See you soon.
Cheers.